Well, it is now noon on Saturday, November 9th, exactly 1 week before my 22nd wedding anniversary. And this is a rare speaking video. I think it'll be rare anyway. It depends on how it goes over, but I don't really like to speak on camera. I'd rather sing. And even when I sing, I would almost... You'll notice my earliest videos are just photos because I don't like to be on camera. But I have some things I would like to say. And so that's what I'm doing today. In the wake of this election, I've been thinking a lot about some things that I'm actually grateful for. And I could probably sit here all day and talk about that, but I'd really like to talk about a couple of countries that I'm grateful for. About a year ago, I went to Armenia. I lived in Armenia for 2 years when I was in my 20s, back in the mid-90s. I was in the 3rd Peace Corps group to go there. I taught English for 2 years. One of my students is now one of the directors at Peace Corps Armenia. But when I knew him, he was 16 years old, and I was his 9th form English teacher. And I'm not going to say I was a totally great English teacher, but I think I made an impression on him because he was very happy to see me last year when I showed up. And he actually met me at the airport in the middle of the night with a huge bouquet of flowers. And he was a wonderful host. And it meant so much to me to be in Armenia. But the reason why I want to thank them is because my 2 years there taught me so much and gave me a very unique view of what's going on right now. Some of you might know that Armenia, in the early 1900s, from around 1915, there was a genocide there. And I taught in the school. It was named after one of the genocide victims, Reuben Savak School, number 151. And Reuben Savak was a poet, and he was also a doctor. And he, if I remember correctly, his wife was from Germany, but they met in Switzerland because that's where he was going to medical school. He was from a wealthy family. Anyway, they got married, and eventually he perished in the genocide. And when I taught at that school, his daughter, who was then in her 80s, he had 2 children, and they were tiny when he died. She was in her 80s. She lived in France, and she came to the school to celebrate, and my school threw an enormous party for her. And I remember I got extremely drunk because Armenians drink a lot and they toast a lot. I was in my 20s and I foolishly tried to keep up, and it was not a good thing. But anyway, I got to meet her. I'm pretty sure she's probably gone now because this was in 1995. But years later, I learned more about who Reuben Savak was, and I thought about, Armenia. That was a country where there was a Holocaust. I mean, it was a genocide. Well, I've always been interested in the former Soviet Union and Germany's history in World War II, and I actually read a lot of books about these things. And at some point, I read about Hitler and how Hitler decided he was going to execute his final solution because of what happened in Armenia and the fact that so many people had ignored it. And I didn't know anything about the genocide until I lived in Armenia. I had heard of Armenia. I actually had a teacher who was of Armenian descent in rural Virginia, of all places, back in the early 80s when it was still part of the Soviet Union. But I never heard of the genocide till I lived there. It was not something that was taught in school. And then I learned about it when I lived there. And now I live in Germany, and I've been in Germany now for 12 years of my life at different times. And being here has given me a unique look at Donald Trump. And I have seen firsthand how decades after World War II, Germans are still recovering from the Hitler years. And I remember reading about how Hitler had decided that he could get away with the Holocaust because people ignored the genocide. And they said, who even talks about the Armenians? And so he did what he did. And now we in America have a man who has been assisted by lots of oligarchs and power-hungry people. And Germans have seen this before. And I've been reading a lot about, I've read a lot about the Holocaust. And it's familiar. Even watching old YouTube videos of Hitler. I know people don't like it when you compare the president-elect to Hitler, but sorry, I see the signs. In any case, I'm grateful to Germany because they've given me this perspective. And I've also always been treated, almost always anyway, I've almost always been treated with kindness and respect here, even though I'm not German. I do fit in with Germans. I look like I could be German, but I'm definitely not German. I can't speak the language, really. I sing it better than I speak it. But nobody has been mean to me, for the most part. I have noticed on the rare occasions when I've been able to sing here, people have been very kind and polite. And I almost wonder if it's because Germans tend to be fairly serious. Not that they don't have a sense of humor, but I have noticed that they are less likely to want to kind of act the fool. So if you're willing to be entertaining or act the fool, then they appreciate it. And they're a good audience. I've even noticed this when I go to concerts. They are a good audience, and they don't act crazy. Or I have never, for instance, been at a concert in Germany and had like drunk people standing in front of me the whole time singing and swaying and falling over, even though you can get a lot of beer at a German concert. They are respectful of each other, or at least they seem more so. I may be missing something, but I mean, to me as an American, this is what I notice. But I also notice it on my YouTube channel. I have some regular followers now, and a couple of them are from Germany, and I've noticed that they've all been very kind and empathetic and friendly. There's a woman that I have never met in person, but she discovered my blog years ago and has been following me. And she's always very helpful when I don't understand something. We are Facebook friends, but I wouldn't know her if I ran into her on the street. She's always been very kind and interested in my experiences here. So I'm just grateful. I'm grateful that I've had that ability to go to these places. Sorry about my nose. It's very itchy for some reason. And see people, meet people, get these perspectives that I don't know that everybody gets, especially in Armenia. I don't know what the future holds or where I'm going to end up. And I'm getting old enough now where I kind of almost don't really care. I don't have children. I don't have grandchildren. My husband has 2 daughters, but one of them is estranged. And the other one lives in the U.S. and has 4 children. But I've actually only met her one time. And there's a long story about why that happened. It has a lot to do with parental alienation and narcissism. But she's a very kind, lovely person like my husband is, and I'm getting to know her on the internet. But I'm not her mother, and I'm not her children's grandmother. So I have my husband, but I don't have any descendants. And until very recently, I didn't even have very many people that read my efforts. So it kind of gives you a fatalism, I guess, where you just almost don't really care. That's also a feature of my depression. I have a problem with depression too. But anyway, I want to wrap this up because this is getting long. I do want to thank everybody again for watching my channel and listening to my songs. And but I really want to say thank you to the people in the countries where I've had a chance to live. And the third country that I lived in was England, and that was a long time ago when I was a child. But I'm grateful to the British people too, because they've all been friendly to me. And I hope the friendship can endure in spite of what happened this week. That's about all I want to say. Thank you if you listened all the way through. Hopefully there'll be another song. I don't know if I'll do one today. Maybe. We'll see. See you next video.